Good Thursday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Well, under clear skies, I've got 49 degrees on the barn thermometer. It definitely feels like fall in the air. Great weather for making hay. We could use a little bit of precipitation out there, though, to help the soybean and corn crop finish out. I understand places in Pickaway County may be getting fall harvest soon. A couple quick calendar reminders. Powered by Soy Biodiesel, Dale will be at the Seed Consultants Washington Courthouse Field Day today. Be sure to tune in at midday. Also coming up on the 23rd, Holt House Ag Solutions will be hosting an open house in Sydney. They'll be talking about their TYM tractors and other products and services they offer. For more information, you can contact Greg at 937-538-8594. And then be sure to tune in during midday on Monday, as I'll be visiting with the folks at Ag Pro about their new location in Upper Sandusky. Let's check in now with our weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council. Joining me today is Dr. Horacio Lopez Nicora. He is our soybean pathologist and nematologist with OSU Extension. Now is the time to go out and do some scouting.
Once we're getting more into the R3 growth stage, that window of R3, R5 is where we really want to protect our soybean health. So that's the time where we're going to encounter a lot of the foliar diseases caused by pathogens. And again, if the selection of the cultivar variety was a susceptible one, maybe a fungicide will help mitigate your reduction if the disease develop in that growth stage. Always, make sure to select a resistant varieties, specifically when you are dealing with a history of recurrent foliar pathogens. Touching a little bit on this topic, and I think we mentioned an example such as frog eye leaf spot. It's interesting, like 2 years ago in our fungicide trials in Northwest Ohio, we started detecting frog eye leaf spot. Something that in previous year, it was a disease that was more common in the southern part of the state. And if we just look at the life cycle of this pathogen, the disease cycle, we call it in plant pathology, the pathogen will overwinter on crop residues, debris, right? And it will be killed, or very cold winters will avoid the pathogen to survive or overwinter, as we call it, right? And we have been experiencing milder winters in the past years, and we strongly believe that this could be a possibility of why we're seeing frog eyes in northern part of the state we didn't before. And it's, again, just something for us to know based on what we're observing, inform, and encourage people to walk their fields. Again, scout if you're seeing these symptoms. If you're not sure what you're looking at, send it to the lab. We're going to be able to help you diagnose.
Again, my guest today, Dr. Horacio Lopez Nicora, soybean nematologist and pathologist at The Ohio State University. Today's update brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff dollars at work. It's time now to take a look at that Thursday morning weather forecast brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com.
A few changes in our extended Ohio forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at the Ohio forecast update. Nearby, no changes. We are dry. We are still pretty pleasant today, but temperatures are slowly starting to creep up here this week, and humidity values will really jump dramatically as we go through the weekend. That sets the stage for where my changes in the forecast are coming this morning. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, I think we just have to leave the door open to a little bit more instability. We see a lot of precipitation or instability in Ohio. Not really. I think it's a little bit more to the west, but scattered showers and thunderstorms in Indiana, for example, on Monday, could rumble over this way. And I do think we have to allow for some pop-up showers and thunderstorms Tuesday night into Wednesday night into early Thursday before our frontal boundary comes through Thursday afternoon. That front gives us anywhere from a quarter to 3/4 of an inch of moisture potential, 60 to 80% coverage across the Buckeye State. As we factor in the instability Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think we can see another quarter to 3/4 of an inch here or there. And I think that coverage is going to be about 30 to 40%. So combined, we should end up with about 80% coverage of moisture at some point next week. Behind the Thursday frontal passage, though, we turn significantly cooler for Friday the 30th. 30th and into Saturday the 31st. And that's going to be a very cool start to the Labor Day holiday weekend. Dry and pleasant, but cool. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Time is running out to earn more for your acres. The Soil and Water Outcomes Fund pays farmers to begin or expand on-farm conservation, like reduced tillage and cover crops. Last year, they paid farmers an average of $33 per acre. They offer one-year contracts, and 50% is paid prior to verification. Get paid to reduce erosion, improve your soil health, and more. Hurry to their website to request a payment estimate, theoutcomesfund.com. That's theoutcomesfund.com.
Hey Ohio, exciting news coming to you from Ohio's Country Journal. Subscribe or renew your free subscription by September 20th of 2024 and you could win one of 4 50-inch televisions. Ohio's Country Journal is free, but subscribers have to renew their subscriptions every 3 years to continue to receive it. Subscribe or renew to stay updated on all things Ohio, from agricultural insights to rural lifestyle. Don't miss out. Visit our website today at ocj.com/renew. Taking a look at your agricultural headlines, the EPA has released its final herbicide strategy. Now, back on Tuesday, the Environmental Protection Agency released its final herbicide strategy, which is the first step in the agency's plan to meet its obligations under the Endangered Species Act. The release comes 10 days ahead of the August 30 deadline mandated by a court settlement, which had been previously extended by 3 months. The strategy outlines how the agency intends to protect threatened and endangered species and their critical habitats from herbicide exposure through spray drift and or runoff or even soil erosion. Now, finalizing our first major strategy for endangered species is a historic step in EPA meeting its Endangered Species Act obligations. That, according to Jake Lee, the Deputy Assistant Administrator for Pesticide Programs for that Office of Chemical Safety and Pollution Prevention, in an agency news release. By identifying protections earlier in the pesticide review process, we're far more efficiently protecting listed species from millions of pounds of herbicides applied each year and reducing burdensome uncertainty for the farmers that use them. The EPA released its first draft of the herbicide strategy in July of 23, receiving more than 18,000 comments during the public comment period. In response to comments, the agency said it has made many improvements to the draft, with the primary changes falling into 3 categories: that making the strategy easier to understand and incorporate up-to-date data and refined analysis, also increasing flexibility for pesticide users to implement mitigation measures in the strategy, and finally reducing the amount of additional mitigation that may be needed when users either have already adopted accepted practices to reduce that pesticide runoff or they apply herbicides in an area where runoff potential is lower. Now, according to the EPA, the final strategy includes more options for mitigation measures compared to that July 23 draft, while still protecting listed species. The strategy also reduces the level of mitigation needed for applicators who have already implemented measures identified in the strategy to reduce pesticide movement from treated fields into habitats through pesticide spray drift and runoff from the field. The measures include things like cover crops, conservation tillage, even windbreaks, and the use of adjuvants. Further, some measures such as berms are enough to fully address runoff concerns. Growers who already use those measures will not need any other runoff measures, and the EPA stated that it identified these options for growers through its collaboration with the USDA under its February 2024 Interagency Memorandum of Understanding and through more than 24 meetings and workshops with agricultural groups in 2024. In other agricultural headlines, average retail fertilizer prices for all 8 major fertilizers were down again from last month during the second full week of August. Now, this marks the 4th week in a row that prices for all fertilizers have been lower. DAP had an average price of $7.45 a ton, MAP at $8.17 a ton, potash at $5.01 a ton, and urea was $500 a ton, while 1034O had an average price of $640 a ton, anhydrous ammonia was at $678 a ton, while UAN 28 was at $337 a ton, and UAN 32 came in at $376 a ton. So if you try and break that down on a price per pound of nitrogen basis, the average urea price was 54 cents a pound unit nitrogen, anhydrous was 41 cents a pound unit nitrogen, UAN 28 was 60 cents, and UAN 32 was 59 cents. In a news release earlier this week, Fertilizer Canada urgently called on the Canadian federal government to take immediate action to prevent a work stoppage on the CN Railway and the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad. A strike at both railways would have devastating impacts on Canada's economy, the reputation as a reliable trading partner, and global food security, the Fertilizer Canada release stated. Now, the time for action is now, according to Karen Proud, President and CEO of Fertilizer Canada. We can no longer patiently wait for a resolution. The federal government must protect Canada's economy and food security by ordering a binding arbitration. Disruptions affect all rail service across the country and will cost the fertilizer industry an estimated 55 million Canadian dollars, 63 million per day in lost revenue, not including logistical and operational cost. Fertilizer Canada said that the railway has moved an average of 69,000 metric tons of fertilizer per day, which is equivalent to 4 to 5 trains. 75% of all fertilizer produced and used in Canada is moved by rail with minimal transportation alternatives, and fertilizer plays an important role in food security and is responsible for half the world's current food production, according to the release. Now, if we take a look back at all the major fertilizers, all but 3 are lower compared to where they were a year ago. Both UAN 28 and 32 are 6% lower. Tin 34O is 9% less expensive, while potash is 10% lower, and urea is 13% less expensive compared to where it was a year ago. DAP is actually at 1% higher than a year ago, and MAP 7% more expensive, while anhydrous is 8% more expensive looking back to last year. It's time now for your Thursday morning Louis Dreyfus grain analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Let's check in with Ryan Martin.
Grain markets mixed as we went home on Wednesday. It was an incredibly dull and boring trading day overall. There just wasn't really much to get too super excited about. Let's talk Pro Farmer Crop Tour first of all. The results up to this point have been, well, I guess you'd say as expected, neither bullish nor bearish on yield potential. And yesterday's pictures that we saw circulate on social media, at least, showed that there's some pretty good corn in some places. But, you know, you got to question pod counts in others. And maybe the kernels aren't quite as nice in some areas versus others. Again, if you look at the Wednesday areas that they worked through, nothing to get you exceptionally bullish or bearish off of current levels in this crop cycle. So you have to take Pro Farmer out of the equation right now, and I think the market is kind of looking at that. Otherwise, wheat futures fell hard yesterday. A couple of things hitting the wheat overall. Paris milling wheat losses were the top of mind as the trading day got started, and then the demand out of the European Union was also something to be talked about during the day. China secured additional soybeans in a daily U.S. announcement, which was fairly significant overall. Now we're seeing about 2 to 3 days worth of flash reported sales, really getting the market excited. Ethanol grind, the 9th largest for any week on a record. August ethanol grind for corn, it could be a record 477 million bushels if we keep at this pace going forward. You need that kind of demand and usage if you're going to counteract this very, very large crop that's coming. Also being talked about a little bit more, Mississippi River levels. Now, seasonally, they fall off this time of year as we move into some of the driest parts of summer, but whether or not this is going to severely limit or impact drafts on vessels as they move down the Mississippi in the months to come still comes back to where it rains and where it doesn't. Strong storms in the southern Gulf areas may keep the lower Gulf a little bit better off than farther north. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look at how your markets closed, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. December corn was up 1/4 penny a bushel, and November soybeans closed up 5.5 cents a bushel. December Kansas City wheat was down 9.5 cents, while December Chicago wheat finished down 12.5, and December Minneapolis wheat ended the day down 9.5 cents. Now in the overnight trade, September corn is trading up a penny at $3.76 1/2 cents. December new crop corn up 1/2 penny at $3.98 3/4 cents. Soybeans for September are trading down a penny at $9.62, while November new crop beans are down a penny at $9.80 1/2 cents, and wheat for September is up 2 1/4, $5.22. The July 25 new crop wheat up 1/2 penny at $5.83 1/4. August live cattle closed the day up 20 cents at $181.22 1/2, with October cattle down 97 1/2 at $174.62 1/2, and October lean hogs ended the day down 25 cents at $76.15, with December hogs down 22 1/2 at $67.87 1/2 cents. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. This is the Ohio AgNet.